So one of the most popular topics on YouTube for various different stuff is about inspiration and motivation. A lot of people want to know how to make money and how to get up and do stuff, and basically that kind of content starts to do really well. Traditionally, I've always just talked about stuff that I thought was interesting, that was relating to stuff that had happened in the world that week. But the truth is that isn't what people search for, so therefore it isn't what people get views for. So actually something I wanted to do, is I'm trying to get better myself with the YouTube channel, is actually search for what do people do, what are the Google search trends, what are the YouTube search trends, and then actually just share my own honest opinion on these kind of things. So one of the first things about actually how do I get motivated, that when you run your own business, it is tough, it is hard. You have days where you just can't be bothered and you can't get up, or you have a client shouting at you or whatever, and it's a really tough gig. That often if you work for a company, you have this support mechanism around you, which kind of protects you a little bit, but especially if you work for yourself, it's tough. It really is tough. So what I wanted to do was share some of the things that I kind of do, which work for me. I'd love to know what works for you. And if you get involved in the comments, it should pop up on the screen as well. So the first one, it's all about the mission. So for us and for the Roadmap MBA, what we're looking to do is make business, education and training accessible to 5 billion people. That, to be honest, me growing up, but even my friends and family and lots of people that I know want to learn, grow and develop, but the current options are too expensive. They take too much time. You need certain grades or academic qualifications to even get in. You're based in the wrong part of the world. And there are lots and lots of barriers which prevent people from accessing business education. And one of the things that really kind of drives me is that I'm not sure that if I didn't do this, that anyone else ever would, because actually there's a lot involved to kind of set things up and write the book and write the whole curriculum and put a ton of money into it and create the studio and create the products and the app and stuff. When largely it is a passion project. Yes, we want to be a commercial business, but actually the mission of actually trying to help people is what gets me excited, because actually, say if I stopped doing this, there's going to be a lot of people that no longer have options to really help learn business education and training, that actually I want to solve that problem in the world, or at least try. So that's something that kind of gets me. There's two other things which I want to talk about first. One of them in particular, basically it's positive. So positive associations and positive affirmations. I'm not a particularly kind of woo-woo person that believes in a lot of different stuff, but actually, serendipity or not, often when you tell people your plans or what you want to do, or you create a vision board or a mood board, magically sometimes it seems to work and come true. I know Ashley that presents on this channel has a vision board, and part of that actually makes me think that is the simulation real, and actually are we even here? Does the world even exist? And is the simulation there just to keep us sane, if that makes sense? Anyway, forget all of that. But actually, positive affirmations and actually positive associations with good, events kind of in your life. I've always believed in that. And actually, if you've ever heard of something called Pavlov's dogs, there's something called classical conditioning, where basically, if you have good experiences that you associate with something, if you hear the thing or the trigger, it can make you feel a positive thing. So in Pavlov's dog example, they had a pack of dogs, and basically they would ring a bell, and then after they've rang the bell, they would feed the dogs. And what they gradually learned is that over time, the dogs would start to salivate on hearing the bell, assuming that they're going to get the food, even if they don't get the food. The point is, a trigger can actually emote a physical or emotional response. The same is also true at trauma. So basically, if you had a really traumatic experience where you had felt experience of maybe something bad that happened, that could be associated with a song or a movie or a smell, lots of other kind of different things, that in the future, if you ever hear that song or something triggers you, that can help you feel, even if you don't want it to, the negative emotions from the thing you felt in the past. One of the things that I kind of semi-consciously did, so last June, my wife and I, we went to San Francisco and LA. It was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. We were really looking forward to it. It was post-COVID. let's face it, nobody knew if we're going to live through COVID. So I was like, no, let's book this really great trip. And one of the big things for me is that I purposely upgraded us to kind of business class flights. So literally a life dream. We grew up quite poor in a city called Liverpool, UK. And actually there were certain things that were always held out of reach that I thought I would never achieve. One was buy a really nice car, which I was fortunate enough to do when I was younger. But the other one was to sit at the front of a plane. I mean, literally the front of a plane in like the business class, first class seats, the fully reclining beds, and actually just do that for like a big transatlantic flight. Because in theory, especially growing up, that was something that was so out of reach, that was just this magical thing that you'd always get on the plane and turn right. And I didn't even know what was down there. It was a really kind of big thing. And then after launching the startup and launching the business, it was something that I wanted to really do as a personal goal, an achievement. And actually, I kept it a secret from my wife until the day before, and then I told her. But anyway, but on that trip, for me, it was a real life achievement that I was really kind of proud that I'd done it and I got to that point. But also at the time, there was a new album by Swedish House Mafia called Paradise Again. And it's a really upbeat EDM dance track album. And at the time, I just remember I had it in my headphones. We were about to take off and it was just blaring away. And I was really enjoying both the emotional feeling of achieving a major life goal, but I actually kind of linked it to the music. And now if I'm ever really struggling for motivation on what I'm kind of trying to do, I put the music on. And what's quite funny is that now when I put that album on, especially if I put it on loud and just really enjoy it, it takes me back to that point of that flight and that feeling of achievement and all that kind of stuff. That was it's a major thing for me. And actually I now use that to tap into when I'm feeling a bit down, I'm not really feeling something that I really want to get myself in a good state. And my point and my recommendation is that if you ever get to that point where you achieve something or you want to go through something that you're really proud of and happy with, if you can, try and associate it with your favorite music and really link the two through listening to music at the time and that kind of thing. Because actually now for the rest of your life, you've kind of conditioned yourself, a bit like Pavlov's dogs, that actually you can listen to that music. It puts you back into that state that for me just gives me pride and happiness and motivation, and that kind of works for me. And it was something that I wanted to talk about. Two last things which I'm now fortunate enough to do just because of the position I'm in the startup and that kind of thing, is that I have idols growing up. One in particular was a guy called Kobe Bryant. So I'm a basketball player, I'm a basketball fan, have been since I was probably about 12 and that kind of thing. And Kobe Bryant was always my idol, not just because he was really good, but actually his work ethic. He did a lot of stuff outside of business. When he retired, he actually started multiple different businesses, but it was all about empowering underrepresented communities to get into different things of film and media and that kind of thing. But really smart, really inspirational guy, and he was an idol for me growing up. But he also had the Mamba mentality, which was his way that it's all about the end goal. If it helps you get towards the goal better, so for him it was winning NBA championships, he would do it. He would, no complaints, nothing, and everything was built towards that. And I've always kind of loved that, and a lot of people online do celebrate Mamba mentality type stuff. But as a reminder for me is that when I'm in this office and I'm struggling a little bit, I treated myself recently. So basically, this is a signed NBA Kobe Bryant picture. It's got a nice little hologram, got a certificate on the back. But actually, it's that balance of now, if I'm ever struggling a bit or I'm just doing some stuff, and I actually think, and I joked about this on Ashley's live stream the other day, is what would Kobe do? And it's that balance of Kobe Bryant's Mamba mentality to really help drive towards a goal. I have a passion with, because it's something I've also grown up with. And as silly it sounds, although he only touched that piece of paper for probably 3 seconds, to me it means quite a lot, if that makes sense. And it's one of those things that kind of I use to get motivated. And the other guy that is more recent, a guy called David Goggins. And actually, if you've read his book, this guy had a really tough upbringing, like really tough. His stepfather was murdered. He was massively overweight, and he really kind of changed his life around. And the way that he did that was through basically just stop complaining. And he really challenges himself, and he does a lot of content online to do with motivation and different stuff. So again, for the office, which I've taken off the wall for this, is basically I also treated myself to a signed David Goggins I'd say it's a book. It's also got the Navy SEAL kind of crest in the middle. But basically his catchphrase is stay hard. But actually, again, Goggins is famously unforgiving in terms of kind of his motivations and people wanting to turn their life about. That actually, if you're not at first, he doesn't care, and I don't care, that if you want to start a business but you're not willing to put the time and effort in, fine, stop complaining about it. Just that's what you've chosen to do. But if you genuinely want to reach the top, Goggins is similar to Kobe in some ways, that it's just stop complaining, just do it. So these are actually on my back wall. So they actually sit near the bookshelf that you can see. And then just throughout the day, if I'm ever like, oh, do I just go home? Do I not? I look at Kobe, I look at Goggins, and I just crack on. But for me, that works. But actually, it doesn't matter what works for me. It's what could work for you. But especially with the positive affirmations and actually the positive associations with music from a major life experience, that is something that gets me amped, that gets me hyped. And actually, it was just something I wanted to talk about. But my name is Steve Pugh, and if you catch this on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or lots of others, I'd love it if you just say hello in the comments, and I'd love to know what works for you, what gets you excited, and actually, yeah, that would be awesome as well.